Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at our leader for my corn side of my army, and we're going to be using this epic Angron.
Scruffy Crow.
So this model is one of the reasons why I wanted to play epic, if I'm honest. I've always wanted to pick one of these up, but never really had an excuse. But finally I've got one, and it is such a cool little sculpt. I'm going to try and do this video a little bit differently, and I'm going to try and paint this guy in one sitting. So I'll be doing that in the next couple of days. At first though, I'm going to repair some of the damage. So his nose has become a little bit squashed at some point, so I'm just going to rebuild him a little bit of a nose, and I'm going to rebuild this horn that's missing, and then obviously we're going to remove any mold lines that I can spot. But I think that should be about it. And then we're going to just stick some sand down on the base, and we're going to leave him on one of these slaughter bases. In fact, I even dug out a GW one from around the right era, rather than that third-party one. Okay, so I've rebuilt that horn in green stuff. So I put a little bit of wire in there, put the green stuff on fairly roughly, and then used a file to try and file it down to match the other side. I've also attempted to try and green stuff his face a little bit, try and fix his snub nose, but I've not really won with that one. We'll have to see how that turns out. So I'm out here now just to get some undercoat on him. Alright, Angron is being sprayed black with a light dusting of grey, and is looking pretty sweet actually. His nose is still a bit snubbed. Still not entirely happy with that, but I'll have to work with it. I'm going to start with my makeup brush and a layer of corn red. Probably going for a mixture of the original sort of catalogue paint scheme like this, and the scheme that I've been doing on the rest of my demons. Okay, that's the base done. After the base coat of the corn red, I'm working on his overall skin tone. So I've got my wet palette, and I'm working with a mix of the corn red and some of this Kato red. We're getting that nice and thin. And I'm just working on bits like the arm here. I'm just going to try and pull out some of these muscle tones. Keep it quite subtle at the moment. And just sort of layer up these transparent layers. I think sometimes for stuff like this, you can be kind of tempted to do a bit of dry brushing, but I would avoid it and try and just add these highlights manually where you can. And then for things like the feet and the hands, especially at this stage, sort of a bit of sort of over brushing works quite nicely. So now I'm just using this very watered down corn red, and I'm just adding the tiniest spots of highlight colour. This is the point where we're looking at every single finger and knuckle, and we're just anywhere we really want to pop, get the tiniest amounts up there. And it's all very forgiving because we were already using the same reds. It's all very forgiving if I make a mess. If I put too much of this on, I go, oh, I don't really like that. I can always go back. I've got my full sort of set of colours here, going from pure corn to pretty much the pure red over here. So I can always pull that back where I want it. I find painting like this quite a relaxing way of doing things. I've also used this pure red on the back here to put in these very fine stripes, just following the line of the bottom curve there, just adding these in to try and ape the texture on the front here. However, the texture on the front I'm going to have black, because I think that'll be a bit more striking. But from the way it's sculpted, I don't think it'd make as much sense to have it black on the back, so we'll leave this with the red. We're now going to start with a whole other colour palette. Sticking with the corn red, we're also going to be looking at this Midland Flesh. I've got a much pinkier colour. I'm just going to use this on his chest. Start with this kind of ratio, kind of fill in pretty much anywhere apart from the very crevices. I'm probably going to do his lower jaw as well. And then I'm going to slowly work the amounts up, doing higher and higher highlights until we get the look I want. If this guy had any palms or feet soles exposed, I'd probably use it on there as well. But I don't think it's going to be worthwhile trying to get it into the inside of his arms there. And once again, because I've got this full range of colours on my palette, if there's anything I want to go back, it's all there. Although unlike a professional wet palette, I can't really seal these colours in and come back to them tomorrow. This will keep them plenty moist for the rest of this session. There you go, I'm pretty happy with the way that's come out. I think it gives me enough variation to break up the skin tone a bit. Now I'm going to sit and I'm going to go through all of the black parts, so the skin between his wings, his horns, his hair, his sword, a whole bunch of the model. It's going to be black, so I'm going to go and do that now. Okay, that's 2 more colours filled in. As I said, I've done all the black, and we've gone in with the gold as well. One thing I've noticed with the gold is you have to be careful when you use it on the wet palette, because it just tends to separate a little bit. But it's alright, just mix it back together. I'm going to highlight the black with this Greatcoats Grey. I'm going to start with these wings. There is a bit of texture in here, so I'm going to start with a full line on each of these. Okay, something like that. And because that's a bit harsh, I can get some really watered down, the same grey. I'm just going to use this to sort of go back over those and really sort of blend them a little bit. Get some really watered down black as well. Use that to sort of smarten some bits up and further increase the sort of the blur. I think something like that is going to work quite well. I might work out a little bit more. For the horns, I'm going to be a little bit harsher. And I'm going to try and follow each of these. They're quite small detail, but I am going to try and hit each one a fairly strong colour, something a bit like that. So I'll do this on the front where I can see them, and then I'll follow that round onto the sides. The horns on the ends of his wings are going to get stripes moving up from the wing to the point. Same with the little spikes on his back here. Basically just going to tip those with the grey. I've got his little tail bit here, and what I've done with this is I've actually faded it from the corn red and the skin cut tones through to black. And then on the end here, I am just going to edge highlight the grey. When I'm edge highlighting, we're also going to do the sword like this. So I'm going to start with the centre, try and get as neat as possible, and now we're going to go down the edges. Follow some of these nicks in the blade as well across. Make my own as well. And then the last black part that we've got left is his hair, which I'm actually going to use this Rhinox hide for. And this is going to be more of a dry brush. And while I had the Rhinox hide out, I've just slapped some on his base as well, nice and watered down, so it gets on all the nooks and crannies. So I'm going to leave the whole thing to dry just for a little while before we do the finishing steps. I've then gone in and very carefully picked out his teeth in a bit of Menoth white base, which is the same as I used the last dry brush on his base. And I've rimmed the base in black like I normally do. I think the final step is going to be to go around with this Agrax Earthshade and fill in some of the shading on some of the metal parts and his little teeth. So we'll start with those teeth, and this should make all the difference. So not only am I going on the necklace here, but also in the gap between the necklace and his neck, just to deepen the shadows. Same on the sword here. Just helps to dull down that gold, make it look a bit more realistic, as well as neatening up some of the details. Removing any excess that we don't want. I'm also going to use the Earthshade on a few other little bits, like in here, maybe a bit under there, under his armpit here. Anywhere where I want a little bit more shadow. Use a little bit on his face as well, just to try and make some of these details pop. Okay, last but not least, one of the smallest but I think most important parts is going to be his eyes. I've already filled in most of his eye sockets with a bit of black. And I'm going to try this Scar White. Go for the Scar White, keep this fairly thin down in the pot. I'm just going to go for 2 dabs. One at the back, and one at the front. Something a bit like that. Alright, and that's what we've ended up with. And I think I'm probably going to leave him there. I think he's come out pretty nicely. despite his slightly squashed nose. And he's ready to leave my troops on the tabletop. I have, with slightly weird timing, just received this one today with a perfectly intact nose. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with him, because I obviously don't need two of them. I might just paint him up and sell the one with the dodgy nose, but it does give him a bit of character, doesn't it? So any ideas, stick them in the comments. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.